It's enough rising. It's enough rising.
Hello, everyone, and
Hey.
welcome to the Green Live Stream. I'm your host, Edie Arndell, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Scott Free. How's it going,
How's
Scott?
it? Doing good. How's everybody doing out there?
Hanging in.
I'll check the chat.
We'll check the chat.
Sorry.
Yeah. So our guest tonight is I had you as Gabriel, but Gabe is fine too. Gabriel Medina. He's from Pajaro Valley Unified School District. He won Board of Trustees there.
Yes.
And he lives in Las Lomas, California. So welcome, Gabe. How was that race? How was beating a Trump Republican? I really want to hear about that.
Oh my gosh, that was really fun. Yeah, it was almost like a generational race too. This was an older boomer. I'm coming in as a millennial, and it was strange in a way because my opponent, very quiet, showed up to just the meetings that they had for the board. And I would show up to those meetings just as a constituent to just kind of voice my concerns. So that's when I first started interacting with him and noticing, okay, the guy doesn't have great talking points. So I remember they tried kicking me out of a meeting because I wore a kofia. And he commented on that. And he said oh, how dare people come in here and wear other countries' paraphernalia and all this stuff. And it just goes to show me okay, this guy watches a lot of Fox News. I could tell. So, yeah. And my whole strategy was just being on social media. And I tell people, because I'm a storyteller, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell it for you. So I was able to use that strategy against him because he wasn't showing up to meetings, any invitations that we got from organizations to meet us and, have a little discussion. He wouldn't show up to those. So I was able to really stand my ground and be like, do you want somebody who shows up or do you want somebody who doesn't show up? And that was really my pitch.
Ooh.
Nice.
Ooh, can I borrow that?
Yeah.
No, take it.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So running for office is very expensive. Before the show, you were talking about you're in your Monterey chapter and Santa Cruz. So you had a double dipping of having to spend money to run?
Yes. So I'm in a dual county. So we have Santa Cruz County, very nice, big county. And then you have Monterey County. And I'm at the very northern end. So we get not so much attention because we're in an unincorporated area. Whereas my Santa Cruz constituents are in an incorporated area. So they do have other representation like the city council. For my northern Monterey County area, I am pretty much the one that they elect aside from the county supervisor. So I'm the person they go to for now, because even our county supervisor doesn't really come out here or listen to our constituents because it's mainly farm workers. So I knew coming into this that, I was going to have to raise some funding, get some groups on board, especially the unions, which I had a great relationship with. And that all helped cover these expenses. Because when you're running in a dual county, you're paying for your description to be not only in the manual for one county, but you have to get it in the other county. And then on top of that, if you don't know Spanish to translate it, they're going to charge you for that as well. So luckily, I'm a Spanish speaker. It came in handy, saved me a few bucks.
Yeah.
And I got on.
That's fantastic. Now, what was it like running as a Green? Was there pushback? Was there support? Was it not really an issue?
At first, I voted Green for these past few elections because after Obama and the mass deportations that were happening under him, I was just like, this party isn't for us. I don't know why we keep voting for them. Yeah. So I would vote Green. I voted for Jill Stein these past two presidential cycles. And when I started running, I wanted to distinguish myself because I don't align very well with the liberal views of the Democrats. And I've always questioned why we do certain things, especially in my community where we're not really told why we vote blue. It's just kind of like a given, oh yeah, vote for the Democrats, vote for the Democrats. Yeah. So when I was thinking about that, I said, no, I know what the Democratic brand over here has done to us. And it's just pure neglect, a lack of infrastructure, not listening to the community. And I didn't want to be aligned with that. So I decided to reach out to a few Greens in the area, one being Sean. and a few of the Monterey County Greens as well. And I just felt comfortable because I wasn't being tone policed or, brought in with respectability politics, like, oh, you're young, you don't know. So it was really refreshing to hear other people were very concerned about what was going on in the area like I was. So that's what made me want to go green. And when I was out on the trail, I actually met a few people. Well, of course, you knocking door to door, you're meeting people. And one guy that I met, he asked me, "Are you a Republican or a Democrat?" And I said, "Neither. I'm a Green Party member." And he said, "Thank you, because I can't stand for them." and this is coming from a man who had just gone through the Pajaro floods. So he was barely recovering even about a year and a half later from that. And he still felt like they didn't help them at all. So that really helped me in my messaging. Like, look, I'm not these two parties. I see you guys, and I'm from here, and I want to help you. I know what it is like growing up in this area, because there's a bridge that separates our counties. Once you go over from Monterey to Santa Cruz, beautifully funded. They have roads. They have buildings there. On our end, a lot of farm workers. We have a building that burnt like 4 years ago that's still there. And people are still displaced. Housing is increasing. So it's really hard for people in my portion of North Monterey County.
So I was going to ask you, what happened with the flood? We didn't hear about that over in the Midwest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that happened around 21, 22. And so we have the Pajaro River that kind of separates Pajaro and then the bridge. And then you got Watsonville, which is the next county in Santa Cruz. There's the Pajaro River that goes through. So we've been raising the flag to the county that it needs to be secure because we've seen it almost breach a few times. But because they want to save money, they decided not to pretty much fix the levee so that way it wouldn't be breached. So when we had those rainfalls coming down, it just completely broke through and flooded the entire community. My school had pretty much been shut down for a year. Students were being bused to another school. Ooh. And people are still waiting for FEMA funding in order to, get their items valued and replaced. But the hard part is some of my constituents are undocumented and they're just terrified to even approach the government at this time right now. Right. So, that's kind of what we deal with a lot. And me being Mexican American, being born on this side, we say that we have privilege because we have status, right? Compared to our family members who may not have that. So it's really up to us to be there and advocate for our community because, they have spoken up in the past and they have been retaliated against. Yeah. So, and we're really just trying to change that culture here. At least I am.
That reminds me so much. And I think it's probably indicative across the whole country when you talk about the neglect of the Republicans and Democrats alike. Because I remember watching a PBS documentary on New Orleans and the levee system. And this was like 2 years before Katrina. And they had said, it's just a matter of time. A Cat 4 or a Cat 5 will cause the levees to break and it will be a total disaster. And they did nothing. They did nothing. Yep. And sure enough, total disaster. So yeah, it's not surprising. Our country does not value infrastructure building at all. Our money
especially
goes
in rural areas. Yeah. Oh, yeah, God, exactly.
It's worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm in a rural area. So we feel, the lack of interest in trying to get us these roads. And, when I first started running, I started putting out just thought pieces. And one of them was like, why have me, my sister, my mom, my grandma, my great grandpa, we all grew up not having sidewalks in our area.
Oh my God.
All of those generations, just no sidewalks.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use that as a bigger discussion of, the neglect that rural communities see a lot, because we don't have that incorporated status where we have a group of people that could hold the county accountable. We have to hope that the county sees us in order to get anything done over here.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a similar situation, but it is inside of our city. So I live 1 mile outside of the city and my ballot was a joke because it was all Democrats and they were just enough of a number that you could just vote. You could just rubber stamp it. I knew one person, so I'm like, okay, I like you, so it's
Yeah.
counting, and I'm putting like a like a little reminder, like that can't keep going. There wasn't even any Republicans on the ballot or Greens or anybody else
Yeah.
in my county.
Yeah.
But then there's a section of my city, the northeast side, that is the roads are broken, their lights are broken. The bus stopped going there because the roads are broken and they won't fix them. And then uh th- there was something else too. It's like just too many things,
Oh,
like they're
so
just
much.
ignored. And all the
Yep.
funding goes elsewhere. But they did get this big transit center built. Come to find out that one of the people that lives on the northeast side wanted that there. So I'm like, okay. I was a little mad that they weren't spending it somewhere else, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently we started seeing like cyclists like come through our town, and we're like, okay, I think we're gonna finally get sidewalks. Sure enough, we're actually getting some sidewalks now on the other side of the town. And it's just like, is that what it takes? We need to get more bikers going in these rural areas so that way they could complain and then the county will go and do something about it.
There you go.
It's unfortunate, and I think this goes back to being like a young millennial in a space where a lot of these like government positions are filled by a lot older folks, and their ideologies are just so different from ours, that I've noticed, because I know I bump heads with a few of my board trustee members because I'm just trying to get them to see like we can't be coming back to this system that hasn't yielded anything good for us. We need to change it, right? We need to stop saying this is how it's always been done. And I want to start hearing, how could we make this better? Like, that's what we need to focus on.
And if I can add a little commentary about the left, and I'm total conspiracy theory type person. I believe them all, because I really think that there has been a real effort to make running for office, electoral politics, uncool. And you hear it throughout the left. Yeah, we're going to protest. We're going to have revolutions. Oh, I want to run for office. Oh, I don't believe in electoral politics. And I think that was done on purpose. That's why we're hearing these, Edie talking about there's nobody on the ballot, and, you're running as the green. And it's fantastic. I push people here, or we push people here, well, the race I'm running is nonpartisan. So what? So what? Advertise it as you're in the Green Party, be proud of the Green Party. And so what if on the ballot it doesn't happen to be there? I mean, people need to know that we're out here, that we are actually trying to make change.
Yeah. And, that's a really good point, too, because a lot of us in my community has always seen the school board as a stepping stone for, career politicians. Yeah. They come in with a set agenda. Look what I could do. Look what I did. And then they go to like city council, supervisor, state rep, state senate. And we're tired of it. Like, that's why I said, like, I want to run in my hometown because I know the community. I'm going to be here forever. Right. I grew up with a lot of the people that are here, so I have that connection. And, when you have that connection to your constituents, you want to do good for them because they're your family members. Right. And even the people that are new and coming into the area, I want to get to know them so we could make things better for them and everybody that's living here. Yeah, we do not have great roads. We don't have, the proper infrastructure set up, and it's designed like that. I mean, even my schools are all surrounded by fields. Right. We have a high rate of autism and cancer within our kids. And that's totally due to the runoff that we get from these pesticides. Okay. So, we've gone through so many environmental disasters and impacts on my community. And it's just like, we need to put our foot down now and start challenging these people because it's not getting any better. Look at, my grandma was sprayed. My mom had ADHD. I have ADHD. And it's just traveling down the line. It's not a temporary thing. It's something it almost changed your DNA. So that's why I tell people like pesticides is a huge thing that we need to look at, and why they're being built around schools. Same with, the lithium power plants and securing our levees, because it impacts students when these environmental disasters happen. And then we have to find a way to make sure that those students at the same time are still getting an education while they're dealing with all this mayhem. So, that's another thing that needs to change. We also need to start addressing students where they're at and how we could help them aside from filling in a bubble on, a little quiz or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got a little horror story for you.
Love it. Tell
I
me.
am a Gen Xer, so I was a kid in the 70s, and my small town used to spray DDT.
Oh my
They'd
God.
fog the whole town. So my bunny rabbit died. I had a bunny rabbit.
Oh.
I didn't understand because I was still too young. I'm in there watching cartoons, and I had fed her some grass from the yard. I didn't think anything of it, and I killed my rabbit.
Oh.
But they come up our street, and my dad be like, "Edie, come on inside." It didn't stop the mosquitoes. It didn't stop anything. Just killed all the birds.
Yeah.
The insects will survive. Just saying.
Right.
So yeah, and right now, I am under a tornado watch, maybe warning. I'm eyeballing the weather, so that's why I keep looking around, just make sure I'm still okay.
Right. No. Please be
Yeah.
careful because I was just saying that I watch the Weather Channel all the time. Well, I mean, I flip around, but at some point there were 19 tornado warnings at the same time. 19 at the same time. And as I say every time on this program, this is our new reality. Climate change is here.
Yeah, this storm is so big. It's down in Texas and it's in northern Indiana at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah. No, it's bad.
I like to live dangerously, apparently.
Yeah, seriously.
No,
we're safe over here in California, just a little bit.
Yeah. No. If you live in America, you're living dangerously. Everywhere you're living dangerously. I mean, on the Power to End Genocide that you were on with Butch Ware, you had talked about how your school was affected by both the flood and the fire, and how they made it compounded worse by, and these are just disasters that are happening one after the other after the other.
Oh yeah. And that when the Moss Landing fire happened, that so you can't put out lithium fires with just regular water because it's just going to inflame it a lot more. So they had to let it burn out, and it wasn't helpful that it was near a pier, right? And it's Moss Landing. The name tells you everything. It's damp, it's wet. So when that happened, the air started to come off, and then the plume started to form right over us in this area. So the next day, a lot of my constituents were like, "Hey, why aren't we shutting down the schools? What's going on?" And this is the hard part. I tell people about being in office. You have to weigh these decisions. You're the one that's going to have to make that determination. And me, knowing that I had some students whose parents still had to go to work because they had to go pick in the farms, in the fields, and they didn't have anybody to take care of them, to cook a meal from them. So I told them, we're going to leave the schools open in my area. So if they need that space, they could go ahead and go in there. And because, we went through COVID, we got that funding. The rooms are nicely installed. We have air coming in that's being filtered. So that was fine. And then I had some constituents that just took their themselves out of the area, which was completely fine. I even had staff tell me, "Hey, I'm getting a headache. Like, I don't know what's going on." And I told the superintendent, like, "Hey, I think we need to let people go home if they need to, because the air quality is just not well right now." Yeah. And to top it off, they had sent out, and when I say they, I mean the district office, right? The school, they sent out a letter to the schools telling them to close their windows, make sure everything's sealed shut. The problem with that is my middle school that was damaged by the floods is still going through some construction. So there are still some windows that were not even put up, especially in the library area where we had a lot of the counselors. So they were like, "Hey, we got this, but we don't have anything to put up there. There's no windows." So, I had to talk to the district. I told them to do something about it. It didn't get settled. And then about 2 weeks later, another fire ignited because of the rain that was coming in. I asked them, okay, they sent out that same notice. And again, I had staff and faculty emailing me saying that the window was still not up. And that was 2 weeks that they had to put something. So I said, "Go put something up right now. pixie glass. I don't care what it is, or I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
Because this is what my community, especially on this side of the bridge, has always faced, right? We feel like we're a second thought at all times. And when we get loud, or when people get loud, they get disciplined, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to take that crap anymore. So you're going to get these windows done. You're going to make sure our students are safe, because if this were happening in any other place, I guarantee you the parents would be organized, lined up, and telling you guys that you did wrong. But because our parents are just so scared of retaliation, they're not going to do that. So I tell them, come talk to me, because I'll be your voice, right? Because you shouldn't have to experience this. And a lot of them, it's just normalized over here. And I tell them this isn't normal. These things should be immediately addressed, especially if it's impacting your health. So that's kind of what we're facing right now. I feel like it's happening in a lot of rural places that this goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Edie.
Oh, I was just going to say, and the Democrats, what have they done for you? Nothing.
Not much, except come for votes.
Gavin Newsom got caught on camera during the LA fires out there trying to look like a hero. And then this lady confronted him. It's like, there's no water in the hydrant. And it's because, what is it? The Resnicks, billionaires, has it all for Palm Wonderful, right?
Yep.
And all their, they did some backroom deals and they got most of the water.
And that's what happens when we privatize these things, right?
Right.
If you look at Mexico, I mean, they just nationalized water.
Wow.
So now a lot of people are, especially indigenous tribes, are being able to access that after being, American corporations coming in, taking their crops and, shipping it back and leaving them with nothing. So now they're actually getting those nationalized elements, because Claudia Sheinbaum, being a scientist, just a very aware person, she's seen, and I wish we had done that. Had we had Bernie, I believe we would have had our Sheinbaum right now, because I felt like he kind of set me off into politics. I'm like, oh, this grumpy old man reminds me of my grandpa. I like that.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that he stood within the Democratic Party, that's where I was just like, no,
Right.
They're not going to allow you to do anything, even at the local level. When we see really young people trying to ascend, they get shut down by these establishment people who have been here for a long time, who love the praise, who love the free events they go to, but they're not really doing the work of their constituents. And I think a lot of us are being open to that now.
And I think, I will give credit to Bernie up until 2016. And from then on, he knows exactly what he's doing. And he does it over and over and over. And he's sheepdogging people in the Democratic Party just to keep them there. And he betrays his constituency over and over. So, no love here for Bernie Sanders whatsoever.
Yeah. But and even when he was shepherding in Joe Biden, it's just like, dude, nobody likes this guy. Nobody
likes
this guy.
I mean,
exactly. So
genocide. Ugh. Yeah. I can't.
And I'm so disappointed in AOC as well, who's kind of going along with this too. So I'm just like, mujer, like, that the Democrats aren't going to vocalize for us in any way, shape, or form. Right. So that's why go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned AOC, and that's where it gets personal with the Green Party. Because she worked with the Green Party, helping candidates. Then 8 years later, she's lying about the Green Party, saying they only show up every 4 years with Jill Stein and they're predators. I mean, she is an absolute liar. She's a betrayer to people who are, progressive, who want change. She, who do I hate more, AOC or Bernie? I don't know. But
they're like on a team.
Oh my God,
I feel like I hate Bernie more.
Okay, I'll give you that.
because I promoted him in 2016. I didn't work, but I told everyone, I'm like, this guy's got great ideas, and I talked to my coworkers and my family and my friends and people on the street, just anybody I could grab. I was so excited. Yeah, because these are ideas that the Green Party originated in the Green Party, and I didn't know that then. Right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, Medicare for all, let's do that. You know, and then, I'm like, okay, we didn't get it. We tried some other things. 2020 came around, and then I'm like, this time we're going to do it. I went and worked for him. I knocked doors every Sunday after working a 50+ hour a week job and still trying to paint. I'm an artist. So I ran myself ragged for months just for him to say, Joe Biden's my friend.
Yep.
And then
AO
like genocide, well, he wasn't Genocide Joe yet, but he was, he did Iraq. He made sure Iraq happened.
Yeah.
And that has to do with my family because my son's a Marine. And I'm like, he
and
can't be your friend.
AOC on purpose stole the Green New Deal. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
she comes from the Green Party. She steals the Green New Deal. And right, it was Medicare for All also started with the Green Party. All of the ideas the Green Party were pushing 10 years previous, the Democrats say as a talking point when they're out of power.
Yep. And
when they
I
get into
think
power,
people,
silence.
yeah, and I think people are just interested in just the infrastructure they have built out. They're established, but in that established, they have processes for people not to ascend up. That is how established they are.
Right.
So, and like AOC, cool, I'm a green. I didn't feel any of that when she was describing Jill Stein. I actually felt like she actually saw our community a lot more than what AOC is doing for our community. I didn't hear her speaking up about the ICE deportations before, right? It's only now, and I get it. She's Puerto Rican, I'm a Mexican, very different, points of view. But that was the one fear that I had getting into politics, is that I was going to get absorbed, by these establishment Dems, and just not be happy with the work that I'm doing. The work that I'm doing now for the Greens is invigorating. I love the people I'm surrounded by. This was the first party that didn't tie me directly to immigration. They said environmental justice is what we need to focus on for your community. I said, absolutely. Right. Because all the Democrats, when they see people like us, is, oh, immigration, we need to talk about that. Right. It's just like, there are more than other things that are impacting our community than immigration. Right. Yes, it is impacting us. But at the same time, look at where we're placed. We're in the middle of fields that get sprayed. We're in rural areas that get neglected, right? And, Bernie tapped into something when you saw that map that he had all along the Mexico-American border, right? A lot of people were turning out for him. But I think, like you said, a lot of us did feel betrayed because he gave in to these, democratic values that were very far from what we thought he was going to be doing and pushing for. So, yeah, a lot of us do feel neglected. And I tell people, like, Mexicanos themselves, us, we actually had an independent party back in the day, which is called La Raza Unida Party, which came out of Texas, right? And and I tell people, like, we are very motivated with social values. And I went to a meeting with like some liberal Democrats. And I remember there was this one woman, she cited a statistic at me because I had said, oh yeah, like I'm a socialist, all this stuff. And she's like, well, I read a poll in Florida that said Hispanics don't like socialism. I dropped my jaw and I said,
those people,
Florida? Okay, let's break this down.
Yeah. Right.
One, don't ever call me Hispanic. Don't do that. That's how we know if people are down for the brown. You don't call us Hispanics. Two, Florida has a lot of Cubans, a lot of Puerto Ricans there. Cubans have a very conservative view compared to Mexicanos, which are more socialist, right? We like social values. So I told her, when this is the problem that I have, is that you all lump us into this one category when we're not, we're part of the same pie because you labeled us as that. But Mexicans are very different from Cubans, right? Puerto Ricans and Cubans have status. Some of them have status, whereas us, we come over the border and we're told we're illegal, right? Whereas, I don't want to get into the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that was never upheld. But, we understand our native roots in this land, and we understand that Puerto Ricans and Cubans also have their own experience that should not be erased. But to lump us all in, that's when we know, okay, you obviously didn't do your homework.
Right. And the thing about the Democratic Party, I've listened to them for years, and all they would say is, and we need immigration reform. That's it's two magic words. Immigration reform, and they think that that's good enough, right?
Yeah, and we're always used as like playing chips too between them and the Republicans.
Right.
It's just like, why do we keep voting for them if they're just using us as a political tool in order to get one person on board from another party? Like, that is so wrong in so many ways. And that's why I tell people, like, we need to stop voting for a party that just sees us as a vote and nothing more. Right. So, and that's why I'm really trying to convert my area to green. And I think we're ready for it, because I tell people, like, what have they done for us?
Yeah.
Aside from deport us, criminalize us, you know, and especially now, like, Democrats made the pathway for Donald Trump.
Oh, God.
They allowed these massive ICE raids to happen under their watch. Right. Even under Joe Biden, we had kids in cages.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I don't see any of them having a moral high ground, because they're all at the same level to me, Republicans and Democrats. Same snake, different head. So
my new slogan is Republicans and Democrats work in tandem.
Yeah,
because that's actually how they do it. So the Democrats will slip in the laws, the really evil laws that allow the Trump, you know, ugly face Trump to activate it. In indefinite detention, that was signed by Obama. So there is no doubt that these two groups work in tandem. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the end of habeas corpus. Sorry, I have to keep checking the weather.
Yeah, no. I get it. No. You got to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the end of habeas corpus, Obama.
Right.
You know, that's been around for how long? Since like the 1200s, I think.
Yeah. And, you know, I when people like, oh, well, we had Obama, and I'm like,
oh,
I didn't. Like, my family's being criminalized, deported.
He was,
you know,
deporter in chief.
Well,
exactly.
That was his slogan. Yeah, that was his nickname.
And you know, they like to put you in your little box. I mean, they do that to me too. They see me, they think you must be, you know, super like into pro-choice things and all that. And like, I'm for it, but I want to free Palestine.
Yeah, right. Once Palestine's free, we're all free. Like,
and I want Medicare for all. Like, you know, you're judging a book by its cover. I remember when John McCain and Sarah Palin were running, right? So I was at my job, and I was up front in the grocery store at the magazine rack, and this other vendor's over there, and he's stocking the magazines. He's like, "Why do you hate Sarah Palin? She looks just like you." And I just like said, I'm like, "What?"
Oh.
And I'm like, wow, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, at that point, I'd be like, I'm done. I will see you later.
I don't understand that kind of stupid. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Can you see what is it, like Russia from your window or something like that? Was that the thing that she said?
From my house.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy SNL during that period. Tina Fey killed it for sure.
Oh yeah.
So you're supporting Butch Ware obviously for governor, and you were on the Power to End Genocide live, and I had to join a little late. I was somewhere else, and I was trying to listen, and people were talking to me. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back and watch. But I thought the program was just fantastic. So
that was really
how was
good.
that? What did you discuss?
So I focused on education in mind, and, you know, just kind of talking about these environmental disasters that happen within my community, along with the floods, the fires, and the pesticides, all three of those things. Yeah. And also just connecting, you know, what's happening in Palestine to what has happened to us as indigenous people from Northern and Central America, right, and even South America. So when I was on the campaign trail, knocking on doors, you know, that would be something that I would bring up, like, hey, do you know what's going on over there right now? And my community, you know, very isolated. We're out here, we're working class, you know, go to work, make a meal, go to bed, repeat. And I would tell them about that, and, you know, they were like, oh, well, you know, it's going on over there. You know, it's not impacting us. And I said, it already has impacted us, right? In the 15,000s, the Spanish came over and completely eradicated our indigenous values, our people. They brought smallpox. They burned our scrolls. They converted people because they thought that was the way to salvation and the only way to salvation. And, you know, I tell them, I don't want that to happen to anybody else. Yeah. I don't. And I wish that somebody would have stopped the Spanish from coming onto our shores and just completely demolishing us. And I am not going to let that fly now, because what if people were there advocating for us? Do you think this would have happened? No. So that's why it's important, right? Even the environment that we're in, they're pushing us out into certain areas within the US. And that's exactly what's happening to the Palestinians. Our reservations are getting smaller and smaller, within America. They're completely displaced. They're overrun by, drugs that are coming in from the outside. People go missing, kidnapped, murdered. These are things that are happening on our reservations, and it's not different to what's going on in Palestine. So that's why it should matter to us. Because guess what? We don't look any different than those Palestinian kids or those women and men over there. I've got told to go back to Palestine. I got told I look Arab. I've got told, these things. And I tell them, oh, I'm Mexican, and they don't care. They just see a brown person who is advocating or expressing themselves differently than what they want to hear. So they will label you. They will tell you to go back to your country, and that's what happens when Western philosophy kind of takes over. It's all about the individual, right? Whereas if you look at indigenous philosophy, it's all about the community, and that's what I'm trying to go back to is my indigenous roots, especially with education. Right now, we shouldn't be, having kids learn to a standardized test that's not going to be there when they graduate in the real world. I don't go to work and fill in 4 bubbles that I need to in order to get paid. I need to do certain services and have certain skills in order to perform that work. So that's really what I was talking about, is just how we need to reform our education, how we need to look at the environmental impact on our schools, and also what is going on globally, because our students are seeing these things happen. We're no longer in an era where everybody's watching CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. It's so decentralized now that we could actually go on and see what's really happening right before our eyes, which is why they're trying to censor it, right? Which is why they don't want you to ask those questions. Right now, my district's in a battle over ethnic studies, and we had a few Zionists come in and tell us that this is anti-Semitic, talking about colonialism. And as a Native person, it's just like, are you serious? Like, you're coming on to our land and telling us that we can't talk about colonialism that has directly impacted us because you don't want us to make the connection to what's going on in Palestine and exactly what the American government is. You don't want us to make those connections. Is that it? Yep. So that's why I'm happy to be on the school board, and really just advocate for the next generation, because their voices are being silenced right now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I wished I would have gotten the education that I taught myself later, and I'm still learning things like what you just told me. I didn't know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, until a few years ago, because there had to be a movement behind it to make it big enough for everybody to learn about it. I never learned about that in school. Like, I long for the day where our kids will learn our true history and then learn what we're doing to change it. I mean, Germany has that. They confront their Nazism and what happened. They leave things there so people can see, to know it's not a story, it's real. And we in America seem to just erase everything as we go. Like,
we want to just be the nicest brand that's out there to the world, but when you get in our borders, that brand is not very nice at all.
No, it's amazing the level to which education is like this battle over propaganda. So it's fabulous that you are there fighting the good fight, because it's the same as what Edie said. I don't think I learned a thing until I got out of school. I swear to God, I don't think there's anything of value that I know now that I learned in school. I didn't learn any of that there. They learned the opposite. I learned the opposite.
I learned one thing that still applies to this reality. That somebody could be elected president without winning the popular vote. And I read that like 5 times, and I looked around the room. I'm like, is nobody else like alarmed by this? And I'm like 10 years old, like
exactly. Yeah, and in our area, it's so rich in culture because we've had agricultural fields since since the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So my community right now, Latinos are the ones that are in the fields right now doing the work. But before then, we had our Filipino, Japanese, and Chinese community. If you look at our newspaper, you could go back and you could find out that our community was impacted by the Chinese Exclusion Act, the Japanese Exclusion Act, the Mexican Repatriation Act, Operation Wetback. All these things were happening here in my hometown, and the students don't know that. And it's just like, no, you should be knowing these things. That way we don't repeat them. You know, in 1969, during the Chicano blowout, students rallied because they were not seeing themselves in those history books or given the proper resources, right? And we're just seeing that happen again now. Ethnic studies is under attack and being censored. They don't want people knowing about their history, right? They want this propaganda, right, to sit with people so that way they don't have a good response, right? And the fact that we have to go to college, I had to go to college to learn about my history, the Chicano movement, the blowouts, Corky Gonzalez, right? All these prominent figures that were actually fighting for us. You know, but they erase those people in high school because they don't want to start those movements. Yeah.
Tell us more about those, because we don't know either.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Right now, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, yes. So 1969, that's when the Chicano blowouts happened. And this was a big movement that was happening in Los Angeles because of resources, the education that was happening. At the same time, in the 70s, with all these other social movements, we had the equivalent of the Black Panthers come out, which was the Brown Berets. We actually have an active chapter of the Brown Berets here in my area. So they've just reactivated because of Trump. So now they're doing a lot of work in defending the community. So that's where the Brown Berets originated. And then as you go into the 70s, it was a matter of the colleges starting up these departments of Chicano, Latino, Mexican history. So that was another fight that we had to go into in the 80s and 90s. So these were started. And then if we go even further back, one film that I love directing to people is Salt of the Earth. I don't know if you've heard about that film. Great film about workers' rights and how women had to organize against these big corporations as they were taking the men and putting them in jail. And at that time, this was set in the 1940s, 50s, right? These were Mexican women who were just second-class citizens, but they learned how to organize. They learned how to challenge power. And you know, I'm a film producer, so that's what I do. I love making films, especially Chicano films. Yeah. So this is like my forte, right? And as we come into the 90s, we start seeing more films about Latinos, the big one being Selena, right? And that's when I started saying like, whoa, I finally see myself, right? Because the last person that I could see myself as was Aladdin. That was the only brown boy that I grew up with. So, you know, and still, even to this day, just in the film industry, it's like America. We're only 9% of the population. We're only 9% represented in film, right? And a small majority of us get parts, get roles. But we're constantly getting canceled left and right because people don't watch our shows. And this is what I have to tell people. It goes back to the whole Cuban Puerto Rican thing, right? If you make a film about immigrating over to the US, that is going to draw a very large Mexican crowd. But it may not draw a big Cuban or Puerto Rican club because they don't feel that connection like we have to crossing that border wall. So they look at the numbers that are combined. Not enough Latinos are watching this. Axe it. And, you know, I tell people like, this is kind of what America's like. If not enough people are going towards something, they're just going to remove it completely. You know, which is why we need to start controlling our stories, getting the IP on those things, running for office, making sure that our ideas are out there. And, you know, as scary as it may be, you know, and I like telling the young students this, like, you're the leaders we've been waiting for. We just need you to turn 18. We need you to run for office. That way we could change this community. You know, we'll deal with the boomers. I tell them all the Gen Zers and all them. We'll deal with the boomers. We got them. Don't worry about them. We'll deal with them. We want to make sure that you guys are protected because we want you in office. So I feel like a lot of us are in that transition too, to kind of pass the torch to Gen Z. We didn't have the best experience because, I mean, we can't afford a home, we're in debt, you know, it's a lot going on for us, and we don't want them to experience that as well. So I see a lot of millennials now stepping up, a lot of ex-millennials as well. They're there too, and coming up and stepping up and really trying to bring in the voices from the next generation that's coming in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's what we need. And, you know, this is certainly the time.
Exactly.
You know, and, you know, I've said it quite often that, you know, the genocide in Gaza has really exposed politicians for what they are. All of the politicians in Washington for what they are, including Cory Booker. Great. You can talk for 25 hours. You know, good for you. You're still voting to slaughter Palestinian children, guy. You know, and I had heard from someone, I didn't watch any of it. I had heard from someone, he never mentioned the genocide. You got 25 hours. Yeah. You got 25 hours to talk, and you can't mention the genocide.
He did put on a pin of Israel, though, while he was speaking. Really? Yep.
Oh God. Right.
Oh, so he texted me today.
Cory Booker. Oh, yeah, he texted all of us today.
Yeah, that's special.
He said, Edie, it's Cory Booker. Last night I walked off the Senate floor after speaking for more than 25 hours. I may be tired and a little hoarse, but as I said again and again, this is the moment we cannot afford to be silent. We must speak up. I am filled with hope. My team just told me that tens of thousands of you voiced your support for my remarks on the Senate floor. It will be a while before I can fully get through all your messages and powerful stories. But what's clear to me tonight is that this is just the beginning. Americans across the country, no matter their title or party, are ready to be heard.
That is insane.
So my response was, and there's a little more, but it's just as gross. Did you speak on Israel arms embargo or the genocide in Gaza?
Right.
Are you going to hold the Israel lobby in our country accountable and remove them? Otherwise, this is all a PR campaign.
Right. Oh, it's a PR campaign
that,
for him running for office. This is his big move to try to run for president. I mean, without a doubt.
And they have to do so little to just get this big acknowledgement because they've been messing up so much.
Right.
Like, I'm like, that's it. Like, we finally see a Democrat do something and we're rallying around them. Why weren't they doing that earlier on?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and it's so perfectly Democratic Party because it's all performative.
Yep.
It's so perfect. It's like when they kneeled with the cloths around their necks. I mean, it's just so performative, and that's all this is. And it's so empty, and it is sad. It's pathetic. I look down the comment list and all these people gushing over him. It's you know, liberals I think are a lost cause. I mean, I don't think there's any hope for them. But Edie disagrees. She thinks people can change.
We could educate them better.
That's my role, and because I was there. So it is possible for somebody. It has to. I mean, I once asked this girl that I worked alongside. Like, I used to go to the store, and it was before they opened. So you really get to know whoever you're working next to, right? And I said, "Why don't you care?" And she goes, "Probably have to be something personal." Just like, you know. I'm like, okay, well, I'd like that not to happen to you. So I'm trying to, I can kind of see the writing on the wall. So I'm trying to prevent anything from happening to you because I care about you. So,
and you know, that's really all we can do. I have so many liberals in my family, and when I speak to them and talk to them, like, this is why I'm doing it, you know, they're like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And it's just like, okay, education is the way to convert these liberals, right? Because if they're comfortable, right, nothing's happening to them, they're going to think everything's okay in the world. But once it impacts them, that's a whole nother story. But we should never need to get to that point. We should never need to get to that point, which is why I go back and forth with one of my liberal trustee members on the board, because I'm just like, no, like I see CNN and MSNBC every time you speak. Like, I get it, but I need you to step outside that very well crafted news that they're putting in front of you, and you know, look outside the world. Look at Al Jazeera, the Young Turks, you know, all these different shows that are giving you different points of view. I myself even like watching like CNN, MSNBC, Fox to hear what they're talking about. Because those are the points that we're going to need to refute if we run a campaign. And they're putting it right there on live television, what their values are and what they believe in. And the best thing that we could do as Greens is learn from that and challenge them on those points when we're on the campaign trail.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
We got to go on offense for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the spin is, it's amazing. They can talk about any subject. And if you watch MSNBC and CNN, somehow they're going to spin Russia, Putin is evil dictator into it. And if you watch Fox News, no matter what the subject is, somehow they're going to throw in how China is evil. I mean,
all the time.
They have to. And it's funny because, they've been prompted, hey, you have to keep doing these. And so they're like struggling to find their way to stick this into their story. And sometimes it looks so absurd, but they do it. That's, they do what they're told, just like our politicians do what they're told. Yeah. Go ahead, Edie. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, that's all right.
No, I was just going to say again, I'm just not so kind to liberals because I've tried it. And it even people that I would think would somewhat value my opinion just completely ignore it, and over again, just ignore it because they didn't hear it on PBS or they, and it's sad because, the one thing that our side has are the facts. And that's the thing. Like when Ukraine happened, like I was as ignorant as everybody else. And so it's like, yeah, go Ukraine, go, and then you start researching and you're finding out the details. Oh shit, our CIA overthrew their government in 2014 with a coup involving neo-Nazis. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wait, the Ukrainian government has been killing their own people because they're ethnic Russians for 8 years. Oh shit. And now I'll tell that stuff to people in those liberals.
Well, they always come back with, Putin's a dictator, though, and he shouldn't have invaded their country.
Right,
and
because they heard that every year. I mean, every day. I
sat across the table when I went back to San Diego to somebody that I love dearly. I don't know her really well, but she's she taught my yoga. so I have a connection with her. Like, you're in yoga class, you connect.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there having breakfast with her, and I was on vacation, so I had a little bit of a hangover. And so I'm like, it was a coup. Like, I don't understand. And the Ukrainian people are going to be the ones to suffer. And we did that. We got to own our shit, is what I said. We got to own our shit. And normally I wouldn't talk like that. I'm like, she just like,
Yeah.
Well, Putin's bad, so.
Yeah, and it's the same with immigration, right? Like, oh, why are all these people coming over here? Well, if we stop going into South America, into Central America, and destabilizing their governments, then they probably wouldn't need to do that and immigrate over here. The reason why that people come to America, especially from Latino America, is because we have impacted them directly. We have gone in, we are protecting corporations over the actual people that live in those areas. And then the government or the US decides to put in somebody in place that they like, and that just completely throws off the country. That's why we have so many, I remember it was a lot of Mexicans that were coming, during when I was growing up. A lot of my cousins were like, oh, Mexico, they're coming over here. And now we're seeing more Central Americans come over here, more Venezuela. It's going more south.
Yeah.
It's like, how do people not recognize that? We are going more south and more people are going to come over here because we have a direct link to impacting those people.
Yep.
And it's sad seeing those children and mothers, or even those unaccompanied minors coming by themselves. Your mother must have to really fear for your life to send you on that journey, right? Because that is a tough, brutal journey to go through, to walk all those miles and then end up at a border where they're denying your claims now. Right. And it's just sad. And people need to know about imperialism. Right. And we need to do that in schools. Like we're not teaching any, as they call it, indoctrination. We're not trying to indoctrinate our students. We're trying to give them the facts. That way we can have a better world by the time that they inherit it. Because all it's been up to this point is just, I want to be the kingpin. I want to have the most resources. I want to have dominance over these people and countries. And look at where it's gotten us.
Right.
Exactly. I want to give a shout out to Brian Grigsby. I keep
Oh,
sending
thank you,
people
Brian.
here, and it looks like it's
Brian.
working. We have 68 people watching,
78.
and I can't
Yeah.
see all the likes on the stream, but please like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, because people need to hear this. I mean, I've had that conversation too. Like, well, people are flooding over the border. I'm like, maybe we should stop ruining their country.
Yep.
Maybe
And
they
easy
wouldn't
as that.
come. Wouldn't you rather stay where you were born? I mean, my father's lived in the same town his entire life, and he's 80. Like, wouldn't you rather stay where you were born and the people you know and the culture you're used to?
And you notice how they might mention that we have enacted some sanctions against a particular country, but they don't discuss that. What is the implications of that? What do sanctions do? What they do is torture the people, starve them until they are forced to leave their country, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the brutal sanctions that we do to Venezuela, to so many South American countries that we just, why? Because a CEO doesn't like that they're controlling their own oil. That's all it is. The CEO of an oil company is telling our politicians, sanction those assholes until they give up their oil. That's what it's
Mhm.
about.
It's
Oh, yeah.
extortion.
Yep. Pure
Exactly.
extortion.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
world.
So I know we're getting close, but I mean, and you can hang on after we end the live too if you want to chat for a bit, because the storm's passed here. It looks like
Oh,
we're
good.
clear.
Good.
Oh, good. But let's talk
But
about the
Saturday.
yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that I didn't put this in the notes, but Saturday is the hands off rallies. And I've been telling everybody to come wearing your Free Palestine shirt and your keffiyeh and waving your Palestine flag, because they're ignoring it.
Completely
And if
ignoring
you
it.
look behind the scenes, Indivisible,
Yep.
if you donate to them, it goes through Act Blue, which is the fundraising arm of the Democratic Party. They got all their 501c blah blah blah, but that only applies to people that don't have lots and lots of money. They figure out ways to put it where they want it. A Green Party and the working class and the poor have to follow all the rules. But if you're wealthy, you can just throw them out the window.
Yep.
So just so you all know, the Hands Off rally by Indivisible, the Democratic Party is associated, and money that you send there will eventually go
To the Democrats.
to electing
Right.
Democrats.
Who
So
spends
go
millions
and
to
promote the thing that is missing.
and the
Let's crash
Democratic
the
Party
party.
spends millions to destroy us. They spend millions to destroy progressive policies being enacted.
Oh, that's my
Where-
mom.
where
Hi,
we
Mom.
says hi. Hi, Mom.
Yes.
I have a young mom, y'all. She's tech savvy.
All right.
That's nice. Yeah. Is she Gen X?
She is Gen X. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So am I.
I love my Gen Xers. Y'all had it rough.
Well, I feel like we were the last generation that had a chance. Like, we didn't have it handed to us. We had to fight tooth and nail. But like, if you got lucky and you made all the right moves and you didn't like royally get screwed on the way, you got a house and you had a family. And I'm just so angry that my children don't have that.
No.
My
one.
children are all millennials and they don't have that. And
No.
now
Yeah.
I have grandkids. They don't have it either.
Oh God.
What's their future unless we fix it?
Oh my God.
Exactly.
With the environmental
I'm here fixing
disasters
it.
going on, their future, it's really scary. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah. No. I mean, the scientists are talking about the environmental disaster happening. It is extremely scary. That's where we have to move fast.
Oh,
We
yeah.
really do. We've got to infiltrate this horrific government we have. But I wanted us to bring up the protests that's going on for the lithium fires, right?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
happening.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we are going to be having this rally this coming Saturday. We got Butch Ware, who's going to be speaking on this. He's going to come and visit the sites and, really just talk about the impact that this has had on us. A lot of people got sick. A lot of people, kind of just had to leave the area. And what's really surprising too is Vistra said, oh, we're going to give people $750 gift cards. They literally cut it off on the road, where on the other side of it is where we all live, but they cut it off at a road called Elkhorn. So nobody from Elkhorn this way was pretty much flagged to go get that gift card. I had one constituent who really had to fight for it. But they're trying to say it's only in this area. That was picked up by the wind and carried almost all the way over to our sister cities. So there is a lot of damage. The agricultural area, those crops were completely done, right? Workers were displaced from that area. And they didn't give us the resources that we needed. So, and this happens quite a lot in rural areas where we have these corporations come in to test out this new type of technology. And this isn't the first time that the Moss Landing fire has caught fire. This is the fourth or fifth time that it's happened.
Oh my God. And the thing is, so water doesn't put out these fires. Can you imagine the chemicals that are going up into the air that you are breathing? I mean, I only learned this recently because we've been having folks from the California Green Party on. I didn't even know about these things. So, I mean, this is just horrific. This is scary stuff.
It is. And then now they want to build one just a few miles out in Watsonville. And Watsonville, Las Lomas, Pajaro, we're all working, campesinos, Mexicanos, and they're pretty much going to put us with that lithium fire in Moss Landing. And then right over here is going to be another one that they're trying to put up. So we would be directly in between two of these plants, let alone pesticides. And then we, hopefully they secure that levee still. That way we don't have any more of these impacts. But, it's very, I tell people, like, instead of just being so numb to this, question why these things are happening in our area. Why here in Watsonville? Why next to a field, right? Why next to low income housing? Yeah. Why are they putting these things in these places? And that's what we really need to start critiquing these people. I get it's new technology. We totally want to get away from nuclear. We want renewable energy, but we need to do it in a safe way that's not going to harm people. Because I'm all for renewable energy, but why are we putting these plants that are so dangerous next to communities of color, especially?
Yes,
exactly. I mean, Ashley Brown, when she was on here, she showed us her video when she was leaving.
Yeah.
She's like, this doesn't even do it justice. It is just so horrendous looking. The fires and the smoke. Like, this isn't fog, people.
Yeah.
And then Artist Bernie was talking about he could see the plant poisoning the water just like right across he could see it,
That was in Mississippi. Yeah.
Mississippi.
Yep.
It's happening everywhere. I mean, look at Flint.
Oh God.
Yeah. I mean, we had people go to the hospital. It was crazy. Especially if they had asthma. We noticed a lot of them were having respiratory issues.
Oh yeah.
So the corporations are poisoning the American people, y'all. Just saying. And we got to get a handle on them. And the way we get a handle on them is taking over the government with people that care about the people, not the handouts, not the revolving door. I'm going to get a great job making 6 figures when I leave this,
Right.
Like, it ain't about that. People that are elected are there to serve the people, not themselves.
Exactly. And that's why I tell people, like, Butch is the one that we need to really challenge these people. He needs to get on that debate stage and give truth to power, because we've been lied to a lot at these states. They say what they think we want to hear, but we need to start hearing the reality and the impacts that are going on right now of real working class people on the ground. And, that's why I went to one of their events with Jill Stein. Yeah, I fangirled. I did. I was like, Butch, Ware, and Jill. Oh my God, I've only heard about them, And it's exciting to see these people. And I tell them, like, come over here. Like, I want people to see you and just hear you, because you have such a powerful message. And, we also have Sean Doherty, who was running against Jimmy Panetta, who is a big APAC recipient, and he just hosted a town hall recently that we were at. And, I kid you not, he did not let any of the millennials ask a question. He was going to the older crowd, and we know why, because he did not want to answer certain questions that our generation wanted to propose to him. So, that's why we need people like Butch, like Sean. And I tell people, like, if you want to get into politics, don't do it just to ascend. Do it because you want to make an impact in your community. Right. That's why I ran for school board. Right. I want to make sure that the students are well equipped, not neglected anymore, and given the resources, right? I have a lot of English language students. They bring in nearly $20,000 compared to a non-English student. Yet most of our non-English students have the better resources at their schools than our ELA students, right? But why is that? If they're bringing in more money, why are their schools not as up to date, or why don't they have sufficient programs, right? Because we're moving money around without giving it to the people that actually need it. So I tell people, run for school board, run for city. We need your voices in these places. And it's a long time coming. Like, we need some changes now, or else it's very scary where we're at right now. But imagine in 10 years if we continue to let this happen.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, and charter schools came in and they're scooping up public funds, and they can deny people being in their school. So it's basically just, it's almost like stealing,
Especially students with
it belongs to the public school system.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, other countries, what is it, Finland, that has the best school system? They don't send them homework. They give them time to play.
Right.
They learn better because they're not just like bored, just like, I got to study for the test. And, just teaching the test means you didn't really learn it. You just learned enough just to pass the test.
You learn to memorize it, right?
Yeah, you memorized it and then it's gone.
Exactly.
But why are our property taxes paying for school? It should be equal across the board, because don't we want all the kids to succeed? This is our future.
Right.
And it starts by giving them a proper education so they could critically think about the world. And I get America's ashamed, but like our therapists say, we have to go through the shame in order to be better. So
there you go.
America needs a good therapist. That's what she needs.
On the couch. Time
Let's
to
put
get on the
America
couch.
on the couch, right?
Exactly.
Well, wow, we got 69 people watching. I hate to end it. Is there any questions that y'all have that maybe we didn't cover?
Yeah, throw
we'll
stuff
keep
in
on
the
for a few
chat.
minutes.
Yeah.
69 people watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah, thanks everybody for supporting us here at Green Livestream, because we're trying to get out there. We want to get the message out, and we also want to get the message out about the Green Party. I mean, we have a dual purpose, of trying to get issues covered, but also just bring the Green Party in all of the states of the Green parties together. And because we need exposure. And thank you, Gabe, for running for office as really all the important work you're doing. Oh my God, thank you.
Well, thank y'all for setting up a good infrastructure so a lot of us could come in and really participate. So
right. That's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to promote Butch. Absolutely. We're trying to get the word out about him and Andy Ellis, who's running for governor of Maryland. I mean, we're trying to make sure that people get, across the country here about the Green Party, and we don't just show up every 4 years.
Exactly. We're in local offices. So, at all levels.
Hey,
what's up, Craig?
Hey,
Another great interview. Thanks, Gabe. As always. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. And all 70 people, share this with somebody.
Yes, please.
Because they need to hear these stories. I really think they do. They need to understand that the Green Party will fight for you, not for their career. They're not going to sell out. We're not allowed to, by the way. We have to sign it that says we will not sell out. It doesn't say it exactly, but it's in there. But
there's no one above us telling us what to do. There's no Nancy Pelosi who's going to say you have to do this. That's not how the Green Party works. It's from the bottom up.
We have our debates, we have our views, and then we come and then
Yeah, very healthy debate environment, and we're very loving and respectful of each other. Like just today, I'm texting people in the Green Party in other parts of Illinois, making sure they know about the weather.
Right.
I said, y'all are my family now that I've joined. I love you, and I want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, everyone check your weather or local weather, because it's a brutal day out there in America.
Yeah, and Ryan Hall, y'all, is the one that I like to watch, because he found a tornado on the ground in eastern Illinois that the Weather Service didn't have a warning for yet, because he's got people on the ground. So I think that's the best place to get the most accurate, if you can keep up with their speed.
You know what?
He's like zooming around. I'm like,
What bothers me about the capitalist system and getting weather information out is like Weather Channel and Fox. They may, especially Weather Channel. I mean, they if it's later in the evening or on a weekend, there might be tornadoes killing people. They shut down and play their reality TV shows. So capitalism and trying to save people from the climate catastrophe don't work. They don't mix. So go to YouTube.
And Ryan Hall.
Just not that I love YouTube. It's just the place at the moment that allows, to
It's
run.
the place to be.
It is,
Exactly.
yeah, right. And we
Well,
haven't been censored yet, but who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, thank you, Gabe. Did you have anything in closing? I know we didn't mention your newsletter yet. Maybe you want to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
your newsletter?
Yeah, I do have a newsletter that I do weekly, Amigos of Medina, and you can see it right down here. And yeah, I'm just giving people, especially my constituents, localized information, and I'm connecting it to what's happening at the larger level. For example, like with the Department of Education and how that's going to impact our students who have IEPs, right? The food that's coming to our schools. And, I also share things that I think we should be knowing about. Not only in our own community, but just what's out there, right? Especially deportations, resources in order to protect your families. So I do that with my newsletter every week. Also, I go live on Instagram on Sundays at 8 p.m.
Nice.
On my at Medina for PVUSD Instagram. And
wow.
I actually just open that up for my constituents to ask me questions, or I review our agenda for the upcoming board meeting.
Excellent. Well,
Wow.
we'll push that one too, because we're trying to promote all Green Party folks getting out there on social media. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
So
And the
that's on
last
TikTok?
thing,
Yes.
I'm on TikTok too. Yeah. And the last thing I will leave you with is one of my favorite Nawa phrases, which is, remember, friends, Earth is slippery. And that is it.
Okay.
Earth
there you
is
go.
slippery.
Yes.
Okay.
I love
Think
it.
about it. Really
love
think
it.
about it.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay. I don't know what to think about that one. I'll have to ponder.
Digest it, look it up, and
Yeah.
you're going to learn a lot of really cool things with that phrase.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
the Nawas were like balance. So they always felt like if you were to slip on Earth, it was Earth is slippery, my friend. Like, be careful.
Oh,
Almost. Yeah.
nice.
Mm.
Nice.
Yeah, I like the Buddhist yin yang balance thing. I'm all
Yeah.
about
There
Oh,
you go.
you would
Nice.
love Nawa philosophy then. Very similar.
that. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
everybody, and tune in Saturday.
Saturday, noon
Yeah, so
Central.
I'm gonna go to the protest after the live because you got to do what you got to do. I'm gonna wear my Palestinian shirt and my Free Palestine shirt and bring my flag.
Yeah.
And get into because I can't help it. But anyway, so tune in Saturday. We'll have a great show for you lined up.
Thanks,
And
everyone,
Gabe, if you
for
want to hang
coming.
on, that's fine.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
An uprising, we're rising up. It's an uprising, we're rising up. It's an uprising. Fight the power. It's an uprising. Fight the power.